Welcome back. The Nikon 14 to 30 millimeters f4S lens is one of the best wide-angle lens, wide-angle zoom lens that I've ever tried. And realistically, it's hard to find something that performs better for like anything that is landscape or real estate or anything that requires a wide-angle lens. You won't find that much better than that. I also have in my hands the 20 millimeters f1.8s. We're going to talk about that in a separate video. And these are probably the two best lenses that you can find in the Nikon system when it comes to wide angles. Of course, there's also the 14 to 24, but that it's a completely different type of design and it makes a lot more complicated to use filters and stuff like that. But like for normal lenses design, these two are the lenses that you are going to look at if you want to shoot the best possible image quality for landscape and architecture and whatever it is. This lens is basically like it's very compact. It's actually smaller than the 20 millimeters of f1.8 by quite a lot. The only annoying thing is that the front filter being 82 and the hood being this wide, it takes a lot of room in width in your backpack. But I mean, it's something you definitely can live with. But if you look at the size of the lens without the hood, it's very compact. Now, of course, with a lens like this, you need to remember that you cannot use it in its most compact position. You see it's here, but the 14 millimeters mark is here. What you have to do, you just have to extend it before you're going to be able to use it, and then the lens becomes quite a bit bigger. And the thing is, something that I'm seeing more and more nowadays is that the lens extends at its maximum when it's at its widest position, and then it retracts when you go towards the telephoto position. No big deal, something you're gonna get used to. Is just that whenever you're shooting, if you wanna have it always ready and you wanna have it always ready at the widest setting, you're gonna have quite a bit of a longer lens. But other than that, again, no big deal. To me, this is not a deal breaker for sure. I actually prefer a lens, if it has to be this big, I actually prefer something that then can be retracted and take a very small amount of space in your backpack. To me, that is not a big deal at all. It's not a deal breaker at all. You also have your autofocus to manual focus switch over here, and you also have your function ring over here. I tend not to use it. I mean, you can assign it to the aperture, the ISO, or whatever. But realistically, it's a little bit too easy to move. So at the end of the day, I think it's not that useful for me personally. Maybe using it on for a longer period of time, you may be getting used to it and maybe finding a reason for it to be there. But for me, it's not very useful, honestly. It's a weather sealed lens. Of course, it's very well built. I mean, it's not gonna scream quality. It's not one of those all metal lenses that make you scream quality, but it's solid. It's not super heavy, actually. It's quite lightweight. Also, when it comes to the physical quality of this lens, it accepts 82 millimeters round filters, screw-in filter. And already for a 14 millimeters lens, that is quite an achievement. The good thing is with one filter, the magnetic filter that I'm using, with one filter, there's no vignetting, not even at 14 millimeters. If you stack 2 or 3, of course, at 14 millimeters, you're gonna see the vignetting. But the thing is, when you're shooting at 14 millimeters, you don't stack filters because the most that you're gonna be using is gonna be an ND. You're not going to polarize at 14 millimeters because the polarization is going to apply only to a portion of the image. And so at the end of the day, this lens is plenty flexible even when it comes to accepting filters, because as you zoom in, then you can stack filters on top of each other. At that point, polarizing starts to be start to make a little bit more sense. And so having such a lens in such a compact body, also accepting filters, is another key feature that for landscape photographers, for hikers, for whoever goes around, it's key. It's really, really, really important. The big difference with a lens like this is the range. For me, for landscape, for architecture, for anything that I shoot, give me 14 to 30 over 16 to 35 every day of my life. Because yes, 14 millimeters is a little bit more challenging to use, but at the same time, it becomes addictive and it opens up a lot more possibilities than those that you have when you're going from 30 to 35. Now, let me break the review right now and let me thank RCF Photo for sending me the lens. RCF Photo is, if you don't know it, is the biggest used photographic market in Italy, and it also has shops in various places in Europe. And thanks to them, I was able to use this lens, and I'm gonna buy. Let's just cut it to the chase. I'm gonna buy this lens. I don't know when exactly, but I'm definitely gonna buy this lens because coming to the image quality of this lens is just spectacular. It is really, really sharp, already wide open. The corners lose a little bit of sharpness, but once you get to f5.6 throughout the aperture range, throughout the zooming range, the lens is just spectacular. And basically, you get the most between f5.6 and f8. Once you get past f8 on a Z7, so on a 45 megapixel sensor, you start seeing a little bit of diffraction kicking in. So unless you absolutely need to go beyond f8, if you're looking for the maximum sharpness, don't go beyond f8. F11 is still very usable. F16, you lose some sharpness. F22, the sharpness is basically gone. But there's no chromatic aberration. I haven't seen that much vignetting. I haven't seen anything that's really concerning when it comes to the image quality. It is really, really, really good. And you can focus really close with this lens. When it comes to the bokeh, this reminds me of the bokeh that you get out of the 24 to 120, still from Nikon. It's another S lens. It's nice, it's progressive, it's smooth. It's really, you don't expect that beautiful of a bokeh out of a wide-angle lens like this. So when it comes to optical performance, it doesn't get much better than that. There's only one thing that I would have loved to see a little bit differently, and it's the Sunstars. Now, I am a sucker for Sunstars, and this lens, it's not the best when it comes to Sunstars. Yes, you can get some at f16. They're not super defined, but they're still usable. If this had the Sunstars that you get out of the Sony 16 to 25, this would have been the perfect lens for landscape, at least for me, because of what I do and the way I shoot. But let's be honest, Sunstars is not to everyone's taste, and also it cannot be a deal breaker when you choosing a lens. If you're on a Nikon system, this is the wide angle lens to get for sure. It is just spectacular. when it comes to video, keep in mind, I don't shoot that much video on Nikon just because the Z7 is not really the best camera when it comes to video, so it wouldn't have much sense to spend too much time shooting video with that. But I realized this lens is basically focus breathing free at 14 millimeters, and it shows just a little bit of focus breathing at 30 millimeters. But even there, it's a very good performance. Now, I know some of those performances have been corrected via software, but honestly, this is the way lenses design is going right now, and there's no reason to scream and complain about that. If you follow the channel, you know that if a lens is designed to be used like that, you should use it like that instead of using it without the correction and then complaining that it's not corrected. It makes no sense to me. But even then, like, it's not overly corrected. The lens is already very good when it comes to its sheer optical design. The autofocus didn't miss a beat. Of course, f4 on a wide-angle lens, it's not super challenging when it comes to autofocus, let's be honest. But it didn't miss a beat. It's fast, it's silent, it's precise, it's accurate, it's everything you can ask for. And again, those 2 millimeters change the way you shoot, because we're kind of used to seeing pictures shot at 16 millimeters. And that is already very, very, very wide. But getting to 14, and if you can get very close to your subject and you don't lose image quality, because I forgot to mention, when you shoot very close to the subject, you can get very, very close to the subject. This lens is stack sharp even on f4, and it's not something you can say for all the lenses. So when you can play around with your frame and your subject, and you find a way to manage those 14 millimeters, you get impressive shots that you don't easily see them around. So if you're on a Nikon setup and you need a wide-angle lens, unless you need f2.8 or brighter, which could be for northern lights, it could be for shooting on events and you want to blur the background more and you need to gather as much light as you can, this lens is the go-to lens for everything else because it's got no flaws. Realistically, there's nothing you can point at and say, this lens is very good, but there's no but. This lens is just very, very, very good. And I've shown you in the pictures that you've seen throughout the video. I know this week is probably not the best to publish this video because there's a lot of CP Plus announcement and stuff like that, but I wanted to share my thought on this lens with you. In another video, again, I will compare this lens to this, the 20mm f1.8, because I believe there's a lot of people that ask the same question, should I go with one or the other? To me, these are completely different uses, are designed for completely different uses, and we're going to talk about that in that video. And if I can, I'm going to do another video that I hope it's going to come out nice, but I need to work on it a lot before it gets out. Again, thanks to RC Photo for sending me this one for review, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!